Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Stories with Oluchi. Today I'm going to tell you a very interesting story. You've heard about it, but do you know the details to it? Anyway, I like to give a shout out to one of my subscribers in every video. And today I have chosen someone, and as usual, you just have to wait a little bit so that I can, finish my story, and then I'll tell you who this shout out is going to. Today's story is about Chukwudi Onuamadike, known as Evans the Kidnapper. This story is a very strange one. I don't even know where to start from. I did a lot of digging about this man, and it just happens to be like, I can't even tell if he's lying or if he's telling the truth, or if everything the police have against him are actually the whole thing. But I'm going to tell you all that I found out, okay? So, during an interview with Channels TV, Evans narrated that he used to live in Anambra before he moved to Lagos in 2013, and he swore that he has never committed any crime in Anambra, and he said that he also kidnapped 3 people in Edo State. When asked about who he kidnapped, he said he couldn't remember their names, but he knows someone called Dan Odiete, and that he knows the people who orchestrated the kidnap. However, they received a ransom of 50 million naira instead of 100 million naira, which everyone was claiming that the group collected from the family. So 50 million naira is estimated to be about $84,000. That was how much Evans collected before he could release Dan Odiete. He said he knows how to find rich victims, and he referred them as big fish. He didn't care much about their names. He only knew that they were rich and were able to pay a large ransom. Now, when asked how he meets his boys, he said he calls them on the phone, and then they agree to meet on the roadside or in a hidden area, and sometimes they will join in one vehicle before going for the operation. Sometimes he wears military uniform to kidnap people. He can disguise as much as he wants, but he said that he has never gone into the homes of the victims. He usually waits outside. So you can imagine a rich man leaving his house one morning, and then there's this kidnapper waiting a few blocks away to snatch him off. So he said he works with 3 or 4 people, and their method is to disguise and wait for the victim outside the house. Then once the victim comes out, they snatch them off. Evans claimed that the highest amount of money he ever received as a ransom from a victim is about $1 million. Can you imagine that? In Africa, in Nigeria, someone is kidnapping people for ransom for up to $1 million. So he said that when he kidnapped his victims, he placed them in a hidden apartment. There's one in Ashayo Close in Igando, Lagos, where they are fed and watched by 2 guys until the family pays the ransom. So Evans is willing to keep his victim in this apartment in a very nice, quiet neighborhood, and until the family decides to pay. And in some cases, if they don't pay, his boys will do whatever they want with the victim. They could be killed. But Evans claimed that he never ever kills anyone. He never orders any killing. He doesn't know anything about it. So he says that he pays the boys who work for him, who watch these victims, 2 million naira for every operation. That's the average amount. It could be higher depending on how much they received. He also said that he is in charge of calling the families of the kidnapped to ask for a ransom, while one of his boys goes to get the money. So he almost never make an appearance. You will never see him. He's not fully valuable to strangers, but he's all in the background coordinating everything. He said that once they get the money, they share it immediately. He has boys in every state in Nigeria overseeing kidnapped victims. If he wants to kidnap out of state, he would make a phone call and meet his boys on the roadside, and they pick him up. He claims his mother doesn't know what he does, but she suspects that he is into something illegal, and she always expressed her feelings about it. Now that part really is weird. I mean, he said his mom doesn't know, but his mom also feels that he's into something illegal. His mom lives in the village, so he goes to visit her, once in a while. And it makes you wonder, what does the woman think her son is into? So when asked how much he paid for the house he currently lives in, at Fred Shoboyede Road inside Magodo Phase 2. Very beautiful mansion. You wouldn't even believe that a kidnapper lived there. He said he paid 430 million naira, and this is estimated to be around $722,000. So that's a lot of money. He said he purchased the house from an individual back in 2016, and he has 2 houses in Magodo, 2 houses in Ghana, each worth 15 million naira. Now, Evans denied ever killing anyone. He said he doesn't carry guns, he doesn't shoot, he doesn't touch the victims. His own is just to collect the money and walk away. And I find that very hard to believe. I mean, he's the boss. I don't think his boys are going to do anything without his permission. So he said he spends his ransom in Nigeria. He doesn't travel overseas. He doesn't have a house in the US or Canada. He's only been to Nigeria and Ghana. Now, one of his victims chose to stay anonymous, but he narrated briefly that he was held in an apartment in Igando and he managed to escape when the guards were asleep in another room. He snuck into the kitchen and then gently opened the back door, and then he waited to make sure that no one was coming, climbed the ladder that was leaning on the fence. He jumped over to the neighbors in the next compound and they drove him to the police. When Evans' boys called him on the phone and said, "Hey boss, there's an issue. We need you here right now. There's a problem. One of the guys in our possession had just escaped." And he called the police, and the police are all over the place. Evans said he didn't believe the boy. He didn't understand what he was saying. He said he was pretty sure that there was no way anyone would have escaped that house unless the guys let the door open for him. He said that the man who escaped was heavy set, and there was no way he could have stood up, snuck around, peeped and monitored, that he wasn't that smart to escape the boys watching. Evans suspected that one of his boys let the man go. Maybe he collected additional ransom on this side so that the man could escape and get them all in trouble. So he thought it was a prank, and because he didn't believe any of them, he decided not to come to the house at all. He knew that since the police are calling all over the place, it was only a matter of time before they caught up with him. He believed that one of his boys, called Uche or Adebayo, sold him out to the police. So all these strange things have been happening. The neighbors in all these apartment areas in Magodo, they did not suspect anything. They used to see some boys come in and out of the property, but they thought they were just tenants who would walk around on a normal day. They weren't hiding. They didn't look suspicious. They would say hello to the neighbors. So no one suspected that there were kidnapped victims in that house. So another house where they kept their victims is at number 1 Green Street in Jakande Estate, which is now under lock by the police. The neighbors said that they never suspected anything suspicious going on in there. They never had screams or cars dropping in and out. The apartment was rented for 1.5 years. And then another major incident was the attack on the chairman of Youngsha Agro Motors. He was coming back from an event when a car with heavily armed men opened fire on him. So it was this incident that exposed Evans, because he was trying to kidnap the chairman of Youngsha Agro Motors, but unfortunately the man had his own security with him, so they ended up exchanging bullets, and eventually some men died from his own end, and then Evans' men died as well. So the operation did not go through, but once the police was informed, they had to find Evans and arrest him. That was where all these stories about kidnapping came to light. That was how Evans was able to tell us about his operation all the way from Anambra to Benin, Edo State to Lagos. But then Evans, trying as much as possible to absolve himself from any responsibility, insisted that he was only a driver, that he never held any weapon, that he never opened fire. He was simply driving, watching the road, and wasn't aware of anything that happened, which is weird, right? You're a getaway driver, and then people are shooting in the same car that you're driving, and you say you don't know what's going on. He said he was in the car with 5 of his boys, and 2 got shot. Their names were Uche and Ochman. Then him and another guy called Namdi and Mwoki survived. He said Uche and Ochman fired the gun first, but this is someone who said he didn't know what was going on, that he was just driving. So, Evans also let us know that he used to be in the drug business back in South Africa. He said he was shot when he had a brawl with someone concerning the drug business. So this man has been around. He's a gangster. He's been in the game for a while. He's been in and out. He's always been in the path of crime. Evans didn't just come out. He's been in the deal for way too much before we knew. So Evans was arraigned on August 30th of 2017. So in a 2-count charge, Evans and 5 other men were accused of collecting 223,000 euros for one of his victims called Donu between February and April of 2017. And Evans pleaded guilty immediately. He said, "Your Honor, I'm guilty." And that kind of shocked the court. They looked around like, does he understand what these charges are? Why didn't he hesitate? They had to read it again so that they would make sure that Evans understood what he was saying. And he said, yes, I'm guilty. But then Evans' lawyer claimed he's been denied access to Evans. Therefore, there's no way his client is saying what he knows, that he needs to speak to his client and make sure that he understands these charges before he can claim that he's guilty about them. And then he came back and told the judge that the police threatened to kill his client, Evans, if he didn't plead guilty to all charges. But now he's ready to change his plea to not guilty. So Evans went from being guilty to 2 counts of kidnap and all that stuff that was in the paper to not guilty. So Evans is currently held at Kirikiri Maximum Prison pending sentence. On December 18, 2021, the court closed the case after listening to 4 witnesses. So this case has been going on since 2017 up until date. So here's what happened on December 18th of 2021. Just before the court closed the case, after listening to 4 witnesses, the 4th prosecution witness, called Chimebere Ahamonu, a businesswoman, narrated to the judge about how Evans collected $420,000 from her to free her husband. So Mrs. Ahamonu's husband, Silvanus Ahamonu, was allegedly kidnapped by Evans and his gang on June 23rd of 2014. Ms. Ahamonu said that she had spoken to her husband in the morning of the day of the abduction, but did not suspect anything until the evening when he was not answering his phone. She said she used to live in Onitsha before she moved to Lagos. And then she started calling everyone she knew, but no one knew anything about him. Then a week later, a man called her line with a hidden number to tell her that her husband has been kidnapped. And then he called again another week, demanding $2 million for his release. And she shouted that, oh my God, that's a lot of money. Where am I going to get that money from? But the man said, I don't care, just make it happen. So she started running around trying to raise that money. She couldn't. She eventually raised $420,000 for the man. She narrated in detail how it happened. She said that Evans kidnapped her husband on June 23rd of 2014 on Cairo Road along Ajawa Estate. Then she started calling friends and family asking for help. She couldn't raise that amount of money. She decided to sell their property and raised $100,000. I cannot come up with this amount of money. Could you please accept what I have? But they said, no, we're not taking whatever it is you have if it's not that amount. But then eventually Evans said, okay, just give me the 100,000 and then raise the other 100,000 later. So she kept selling off their properties until she was able to raise $223,000 in total. After she raised the last $20,000, they released her husband and told her to take her husband immediately to the hospital before, to avoid him dying. So after all that, the judge adjourned the case to February 4th of 2022 for the defense to open their own case. So far, the Evans is still in custody. We don't know what's going to happen to him, but if everything goes well, he might face, death sentence. But we're keeping our fingers crossed because this man committed a lot of crimes, and he confessed with his mouth that he did all these things he was accused of, and more. Because when you watch his interview, you would see that he was hesitant in answering some questions. He's withholding a lot of information. He's not really saying everything he knows, and he doesn't want to say too much. And most importantly, he's claiming that he does not know about the killings. I don't know if the court are ever going to bring it up. Who knows how many they killed? I mean, if you don't mention it, then no one is going to ask about it. But Evans probably did way more than the judge knows about. And of course, he's seeking pity. He wants people to, he wants God to forgive him. He wants people to forgive him. But of course, what about the lives he wrecked? What about all the people he destroyed? What about those who died? What about all the money, the bankrupt, the shame, and all that stuff that went on when he was kidnapping people for ransom? Well, we will never know. And today's shout out goes to one of my subscribers, Paul Ochibe. Thank you for your support, man. You're the best. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this story. If this is your first time visiting my channel, please hit the subscribe button so that you can get more updates from me. And if you're a returning viewer, welcome back. This is Stories with Oluchi, and I tell strange, dark, and mysterious stories. Thank you and have yourself a good day.